Hi.
Hi, Vanessa. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for making time to talk with me about this resolution. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad that y'all are drawing attention to it because we received like hundreds of emails. I mean, probably more than 300 emails from the creative sector. And so I know it's an issue that's very important for the creative sector. So I'm happy that you're helping raise awareness for what council did.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you authored this specific resolution. Can you talk a bit about some of that feedback you heard from the creative sector in Austin and a bit of the behind the scenes process of putting this specific resolution together?
Yes. Let me see. Sorry. Am I lined up okay?
Yes, you're okay.
Starting so soon. We're not live, right?
No. It'll be aired later, but this is okay.
Okay. Okay, so the question is what inspired me to take action on this issue?
Yes, and what was some of the responses y'all were hearing from the creative sector that helped propel this specific resolution?
Yeah, what we know about this pandemic is that it has not affected everyone equally. And for our creative sector, they have been hardest hit by the pandemic and have suffered tremendously through loss of revenue, loss of employment opportunities. The sector has been tremendously changed. And so what we heard from artists and musicians was the need for immediate financial assistance for new grant opportunities that they could apply for to have the support needed to get through the pandemic. We know that we are now 15 months into the pandemic, and so the needs of the community are dire. My office received over 300 emails from artists and musicians all throughout Austin calling on Austin City Council to take action and to ensure that funds from the American Rescue Plan dollars are allocated to serve the immediate needs of the creative community.
And as y'all were crafting this resolution, I know right now the dollar amount is no more than $25 million. How did y'all land on that specific amount? What sort of factors came into play with that?
Sure. First and foremost, we always listen to the community. And what the community was calling on was for us to dedicate a portion of the American Rescue Plan dollars. And that came through recommendations from the Arts Commission and from the Music Commission. They both had recommended certain amounts to be allocated for their respective industries. And so what we did and the timing of what we did was to ensure that council provided direction to city staff so that when they come back to council and do a proposal on how city council should allocate our funds, they're doing it from a holistic perspective, understanding that we as a council have prioritized 4 strategic areas and have also identified the creative sector as an area that needs immediate. And so the resolution called for it provided some parameters of a funding amount that we would like to see. And so it was rooted in the community. It was directly from feedback we were hearing from the community. And so that's kind of how we arrived at the number. And certainly we'll be looking forward to see what our city staff has to recommend.
Mhm. I know y'all are looking into a couple different funding sources. Obviously, the American Rescue Plan is a huge component of it. In the agenda backup, it talked about some additional city, state, and federal resources. What sort of specific funding sources are y'all looking into as part of this broader funding opportunity for this plan?
Yeah, well, for us, it was important to ensure that we're not leaving anything on the table. So we really want to take a look at federal programs and federal relief dollars that are out there. We know from the federal government, they have instituted a shuttered venues program. And so we also wanted to keep in mind anything that our partners at Travis County are considering. We know that both the artists and the music community has approached Travis County and asked for additional funding. And we also wanted to look at, other types of funding processes that we have available at city government. And so we wanted to ensure that we understood the landscape and understood all of the different relief programs that are available to these industries so that when we consider the American Rescue Plan dollars, that we're able to allocate accordingly.
And I know this specific resolution is directing city staff to look into different funding components for this initiative. What is the timeline that y'all are looking at right now in terms of applying for different grants and distributing that to Austin's arts and music communities?
Sure. Well, our focus is trying to get these dollars out as quickly as possible. One thing that the arts and music community made loud and clear was that they didn't want for us to reinvent the wheel. Austin City Council has created more than 11 different types of relief programs throughout the pandemic. And so there are current pandemic relief programs that we can take a look at and look at supplementing and replenishing those funds in order that so that we can get the dollars out as quickly as possible. And that's the key here, is timing is of the essence. I mean, many venues, many artists are on their last leg. And so they really just want to see this funding go out as quickly as possible. And so my resolution also had some language on there that called for that immediacy, that urgency for these dollars to be allocated to the community.
I know you mentioned at the beginning that your office has received hundreds of emails and comments from Austin creatives regarding the need for additional funding. Could you talk about some of the examples? Because I think so many people right now, you're seeing things reopen and some people have the idea that the pandemic is behind us, but for so many businesses, they're still feeling the financial impacts of the pandemic.
Yeah, well, one of the organizations, nonprofits that's near and dear to my heart is Mexicarte, an institution in our Austin community. And they shared with me some of the struggles that they've experienced throughout the pandemic. It's just not the same when we haven't returned to normalcy. They're not able to have the same level of traffic flow, the same attendance rates that they usually have at their art gallery. And so they really have taken a hit this pandemic. And, it's one thing for us to provide relief in it's just a few months, but we are now more than a year out from the pandemic. And so that need still continues and it's even greater. And so, we have countless stories from artists, musicians who just want to ensure they can make ends meet.
And then has the city discussed yet any sort of qualifications or eligibility for prospective venues or art institutions looking to apply for these grants?
Well, one thing we drew attention to in the resolution was they wanted to make sure that nonprofits were not left behind. That was an oversight that happened throughout the first process of some of the relief funds that were distributed. And so we drew specific attention so that nonprofits understood that they were eligible to receive these funds. And then as far as setting other criteria, our main goal is to ensure that these funds get out there as soon as possible. And this is the American Rescue Plan. So we really are rescuing our venues and our organizations and artists. And so whatever the city staff can do that maintains criteria levels at the levels that they need to be, but with the sense and the direction of as soon as possible is what we're hoping here.
Mm-hmm. And then Austin has been dubbed the music capital of the world. So what is your hope that once these dollars are into the arts and music communities here, what is your hope for the impact on Austin as a city?
Yes, I hope the impact is that this will allow our city to get back to normal, to get back to the Austin that we all love and hold dear, as the live music capital of the world, as a community that values our arts and culture scene. That is what we want to see. We want to see our community thrive and be in its full glory and vibrancy that we have and love about Austin. And so the sooner we can provide this relief, this assistance to the music and arts community, the better. And that's what we're all hoping, is that we can get back to the Austin that we love and hold dear.
Those were my immediate questions, Vanessa. Is there anything else you would like to add for this story?
Just, council. So the resolution is the first step, and certainly the council still has to make final decisions on how we allocate the funds to address our most pressing needs. And that's from homelessness to food insecurity, housing stability, as well as workforce development and childcare needs. And so certainly there are many priorities that the city council is going to be considering. And so we wanted to ensure that our creative sector was not left behind and that we did everything possible to ensure that we're able to address their needs. And that's what the resolution that I helped pass. And I want to thank you to Mayor Adler, Councilmember Kitchen, Councilmember Poole, and Councilmember Ellis for their support in co-sponsoring this resolution.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kelsey. And definitely let me know if you need anything else. I'm super excited that you're taking time to cover this. And yeah, is it for an article online or will it be on the evening news?
Yeah, so it's primarily going to be a digital article, but I did find out right before this interview that it will be airing during our 6 p.m. show. So it will be both on broadcast as well as online. So hopefully we can reach as many of our viewers and readers as possible. And I'm sure as council comes back with different proposals with how to execute this, we'll be following it in the future. So I'm happy to follow up with you as this progresses so we can help keep people in the loop.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, never hesitate to reach out. I'm always happy to chat.
Absolutely. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye.